she persisted, almost whispering in his ears. No, laughed Prudence. No beef tonight. You guys shopping for some beef? She asked, very direct and businesslike. She zeroed in on Wayne. No thanks, said Wayne. Not tonight. You look like you have a nice sweet stick, she persisted, almost whispering in his ears. No, laughed Prudence. No beef tonight. The woman giggled. She turned her attention to Prudence. You could get some action too, you know, if you like it like that. I'm not particular. No, not tonight, Leroy put in. The woman seemed genuinely puzzled and amused. She was a very dark woman in her early 30s, heavily set with a buxom figure. She wore what could only be described as a white mesh bra and matching shorts. She clearly had no underwear on. Her breasts and her buttocks bulged through the cotton mesh. She wore 6-inch stiletto heels and a curly golden lace front wig. Face heavily painted with the most unflattering makeup. A tiny purse was strung over her shoulder. What you guys doing walking around here anyway? What you looking for, rooms? You want to get on with your own little thing, right? I could join you, you know, make it a little party. She gyrated an inch closer to Wayne, who again adjusted his bag. All the while she scanned them up and down. She looked poor, but sometimes things weren't what they seemed. She'd been in the business for 6 years. She could sniff out the levels of poverty. Okay. Each rung had its peculiar smell, and she had developed a very sensitive nose. Each John was given a starting price, all with the potential for negotiation. She could also tell at a glance who was well endowed and who had not been so blessed, who would make her time worthwhile and give her what she too needed. People tended to forget that not only men had needs. We have our room at home. We're just walking through to Bayside to catch a taxi, they explained. Suit yourself. Anyway, my name is Honeysuckle. She winked. Honeysuckle as in sweet. Prudence found the incident amusing and revolting at the same time. 8 or 10 women along a half-mile stretch of road, brazenly offering their bodies for sale, unfazed by anything that might be going on in the minds of those who didn't understand. What goes on in the head of a prostitute? Prudence wondered. Was it a case of compartmentalizing this section for the other that I am? Prudence found the incident amusing and revolting at the same time. 8 or 10 women along a half-mile stretch of road, brazenly offering their bodies for sale, unfazed by anything that might be going on in the minds of those who didn't understand. What goes on in the head of a prostitute? Prudence wondered. Was it a case of compartmentalizing? This section for the mother that I am, this section for the faithful girlfriend that he thinks I am, this section for the sister, daughter, normal woman that I try to be? Was it a numbness where everything was blank and she watched herself as if watching someone else, pretending that the pain, the shame, the humiliation were not hers but someone else's? Was it a fullness where she embraced her trade and something that came and went with it? An honest night's work for an honest night's pay? It would be interesting to talk to her in a different place at a different time, Prudence thought. By this time, they had moved along several paces, and Honeysuckle returned to her post. Shit, my wallet, Wayne exclaimed. Instinctively, he stopped and patted the back of his jeans, and within a flash, he was headed back down the road in the direction of Honeysuckle. Leroy followed, but Prudence stood where she was, along the sidewalk. She watched as the two men questioned Honeysuckle about the wallet, but they were too far away for her to make out what they were saying. Just then, a dark blue Prado pulled up at Prudence's feet, and the window came sliding down. The driver, a well-groomed man, perhaps in his 40s, leaned towards the right window and whispered, "You want to come in, or you want me to pull over?" "Huh?" said Prudence. It had happened so fast, she had lost her bearings. "What?" "Look, sweetness, don't waste my time. You want to come in and I take you somewhere, or you want me to pull over in the parking lot?" "What?" He chuckled. "You're going deaf? You're new round here? I never see you before. Come in and let's talk. I want the whole package tonight." Prudence stood perplexed. The night was getting chilly. Her bare legs and arms felt cold. All of a sudden, her shorts felt unusually tight, as if she had gained weight or it had shrunk. She tried to adjust her shorts by tugging it down in vain. "Excuse me, what do you take me for?" Prudence exclaimed, in a tone of having been insulted. The man hissed his teeth and cussed a few expletives, rolling up the window. He sped off, but stopped almost abruptly a few meters down the road, at the feet of a woman, who on cue stuck her head through the window. After a few seconds, she opened the door and hopped in, and the car sped off. "What did he want?" asked Leroy, catching back up to her. "Nothing," said Prudence absently, asking directions. "That whore stole my wallet. I had to wring her arm to get it back," said Wayne. "I can't believe it. I didn't feel a thing when she was hitting my pocket. Little wretch." "Did she put up a fight when you tried to get it back?" Prudence asked. "She was pretending to fight, but it was all a joke to her. Good thing she didn't have time to remove my cash." "She must have seen it was only pittance and decided not to bother," teased Leroy. "If you had some real money in it, she would have taken off before you said who that. These girls are slick like hell." "I knew we shouldn't have come round this side," lamented Wayne. Prudence had grown quiet, and they walked the rest of the way to Bayside without much conversation. The sea breeze blew in from the south coast, taking with it a rawness and freshness at once. The sleepy fishing village of Bayside lay to the right of the road, just past the old abandoned building, the only high-rise building in Portmore, which fell to ruins years ago and was never restored. Looters had long laid claim to whatever amenities could be removed. What remained reeked of dilapidation, misappropriation, squalor. Bayside was now covered in darkness. The fishermen were far off at sea, the nets cast. The more subdued villagers had retired to bed. The younger, more vivacious ones were on their way to Kingston to file into one of the nightclubs or dances. The waves lapped up against the rocky shore. Across the harbor, the lights of Port Royal, dim, almost dreamlike. On a whim, Prudence checked her cell phone and saw that there were 5 missed calls. Stupid phone had put itself on silent mode. Maud, her mother, had been trying to reach her. It was a few minutes past 11. She dialed and assured Maud that she was okay. Within a short distance, they were crammed into a route taxi and headed for home. Wayne came off in Brayton, the housing scheme just before Greater Portmore. Leroy and Prudence came off about 2 miles further, in Sector 3 West, where they both lived. Leroy walked Prudence to her house, a large 2-storied building on 83 Way. The house had been sublet for renting. Prudence and her family lived downstairs, while another tenant rented the upstairs quarters. The landlord, Mr. Barnes, whom everyone called Stubbs because he was a double amputee, lived in the original section of the house. This portion was referred to as the quad, a self-contained unit which was generic to all the houses. As soon as Prudence walked up to her gate, she hissed her teeth. Upstairs, as well as all the other houses on the block, were lit, but the entire downstairs quarters were in pitch blackness. Maud had neglected to pay her portion of the light bill again, Prudence mused. This happened almost every month and was admittedly a matter of embarrassment. Sometimes her mother bargained with the men who came to disconnect the electricity, greased their palm or taught them into submission with hard luck stories or horse dead and cow fat, as her father used to say. Sometimes they cut her some slack. Other times they disconnected anyway, in spite of how much she reminded them of their own mother. Poor Stubbs, who usually paid his portion of the bill, had to suffer the inconvenience because the entire downstairs shared one electricity meter. Stubbs consumed only a fraction of the electricity. Maud hardly ever held up her end of the bargain. The kind-hearted Stubbs often ended up bailing her out by paying both his portion and hers. Light cut off again, Prudence sulked. Yeah, I see, confirmed Leroy. Never mind, Prue. Things soon get better. Yeah, see you tomorrow, Lee. She opened the gate and groped to find her key to pull the padlock on the grill leading to the veranda. Leroy continued down the pathway to his house, which was 3 lots down. A kerosene lamp was lit in the living room. Prudence peered into her mother's room. Maud was fast asleep. She didn't bother to wake her. Prudence fumbled to use the bathroom, peed and brushed her teeth, then fumbled to her own room and didn't bother to light a lamp. She was exhausted and would go straight to sleep. She leaned her guitar against the wall beside her bed and, using the dim reflection of the lamplight from the hall, changed into her bedclothes and climbed into bed. What the frig? Prudence exclaimed. Someone else was asleep in the bed. The person shifted groggily when Prudence screamed. She turned towards Prudence and removed the sheet from her head, revealing a sleepy, indiscernible face. Just then, Maud appeared at the doorway, dragging her bed slippers heavily. Oh, Prue, forgot to tell you over the phone. Cousin Cheyenne come up from her bed today. She go and sleep in your bed for a little while. Hi, Cheyenne said softly. She wrapped herself back in the sheets, but this time left her face sticking out and went back to sleep. Hi, said Prudence reluctantly. She lay on her side for a while, staring at the strange mass on her bed. End of chapter 2. So I'm going to end this video here and start chapter 3 in the next video. So join me then. Say goodbye, little ones.